Noswaith dda, croeso I ffrwd byw efo Project Tech Tyfu. Good evening, welcome to the live stream with the Tech Tyfu project. This is the first time for us to do a live stream, and it's a bit of an experiment, just like a number of aspects to do with this project. So we'll see how it goes. At the very worst case scenario, this will remain on Tech Tyfu's stream or feed for the future. Felly croeso cynnas I chi i'r ffrwd byw. Pwrpas y sesiwn yma di roi blas, cipolwg o'r uned dyfu sydd gyda ni fel rhan o'r prosiect Tech Tyfu, am y gyfle hefyd I chi holi cwestiynau. I am quite aware that I've got some very bright light behind me. I'm not sure how much of an issue that is if you're a viewer. So please, be ready and willing to share some feedback. There's no production team with this; it's just me and the camera. But I do appreciate there's some very strong lighting behind me. Those are the LED strip lights, and there's the growing unit right behind me. Felly gobeithio fod y goleuadau yma ddim yn gormod o boen I chi yn y cefndir. Wrth gwrs, mi fyddwn ni yn mewn chydig funudau yn symud y camera fel chi'n cael gweld golwg manylach ar yr uned. So the plan tonight for the next maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, is to go over some of the aspects of growing vertically. What I've got behind me is a vertical farming unit, and this system is often referred to as the flood and drain system, and that will become clear as to why it's been named that by the end of this session, hopefully. Felly mae'r system yma yn system gorlifo a dreinio, ac mae hwnnw'n system eitha cyffredin o ran tyfu llysia a dail salad drwy ddefnyddio systema hydroponeg. Rwan mae tarddiad ffermio vertical wrth gwrs yn dod o'r syniad fod modd tyfu ar gwahanol lefelau, and vertical farming as a term often obviously derives from the fact the systems includes a number of layers of growing. So at a project we're focusing on growing vegetation, but I have seen some very innovative vertical farming systems being trialled where it actually includes livestock as well. Whether or not that will be the future of farming, time will tell. But for us here on Anglesey and in Gwynedd, where the project is focusing on, we're interested to see how vertical farming could offer people in this area the opportunity to grow fresh, tasty vegetables for the local market and possibly further beyond. Dyna di'r nod y project yma, di trio cael magu ac enyn diddordeb mewn ffermio vertical, fel fod pobl yr ardal yn cael falle cyfle I dyfu'n vertical mwyn datblygu'r cadwyni cyflwynwi. Rwan, mae wedi rhoi cyflwyniad byr, mi ai bach mwy'r manylder, a ni'n gweld mae yna rhai o bobl yn ymuno fyny rwan. It's good to see people joining us. Do please share comments or any questions. I might miss some questions. I will try my best to keep an eye on that. And I will designate time at the end to maybe respond better to any questions there might be during the session. So in terms of time, the plan this evening is maybe to be sharing some insight and ideas about the units behind me for about half an hour, up to about 7:30, and then there will be a few minutes for questions. And that's it. And as I said at the start, this is the first live stream session we've done, and maybe we'll do some more. We'll see what the response is like and how this works. So Tech Tyfu as a project is run by Menter Môn and funded through the Cooperation and Supply Chain Development Fund, which is part of the RDP, the Rural Development Plan. Felly dyna di tarddiad y nawdd y project, a mae o yn cynnwys ardal Gwynedd a Môn, a mae'n cael ei wynyddig a Menter Môn. Holl amcan y project I trio hybu, cefnogi, datblygu cadwyni cyflenwi I gynnyrch o ffermydd vertical. And the overall aim is to develop the supply chain, and the emphasis really is on the supply chain. A personal opinion of mine is that growing is relatively straightforward. We can grow possibly anything within reason using some of these systems like the one behind me. The real challenge is to take that produce to the market, and that allows everybody in that chain to make money, have a reasonable return, and for that chain to be working sustainably. So that is the real challenge we've got on our hands with this project. So as part of the next couple of years, there's 5 of these units that have been purchased for disseminating information and to give local people a real life taste and experience of growing. So these have now been positioned on farms around Anglesey in Gwynedd, and we will be opening the application for having these units again at the end of the year or possibly early next year. So if anybody's listening to this and interested and from Gwynedd or Anglesey, then keep in touch with the project, because you may well want to come to online seminars we will be holding on a monthly basis, etc. And you might be interested in applying to have this unit at your own location, whether that's a business location or a home location. This is based in the garage, the unit's behind me, and it does take quite a bit of space, and it's about 2.4 meters high, 1.2 meters wide, and about 0.8 meters deep. So it does take quite a lot of space and headspace. Mae'r uned mae'n cymryd dipyn o le, a mae 5 haen iddo fo. There's 5 layers to the one behind me. And in a few minutes, I will move around with the tablet so that you can see closer into different aspects of the growing unit. So I'm lucky to be involved in the project, and I work freelance. I've been working with Menter Môn for a number of years, and for this project I'll be drawn in as and when required. But leading the project and managing it is Luke Tyler, and he's doing some very good work now, increasing awareness, building the network and supporting the growers who are involved in the project. So by all means, I know Luke would be more than happy to talk with anybody interested in vertical farming, and that is his background. His knowledge is extensive with these systems, so the project's lucky to have someone with that knowledge working with us. So it's based in Menter Môn, as I mentioned, and the emphasis is on the supply chain development. Linked to this project also is the Tech Tyfu Challenge, her Tech Tyfu. Mae hwnnw'n cael ei rannu gan gynllun leader. A mae yna bach o arian ar gael rwan, os oes na rywun allan yng Ngwynedd neu Ynys Môn sydd eisiau datblygu y systema tyfu fel hyn. Mae yna hyd at 300 o bunnoedd ar gael, ac mae'n gofyn chi gysylltu efo'ch swyddfa leader lleol, ac yng Ngwynedd mae wedi leoli yn Mhorthmadog, o dan y banner arloesi Gwynedd Wledig, ac ar Ynys Môn yn Llangefni o dan Orloesi Môn. So both of those are the leader projects on Anglesey in Gwynedd, and it's through them that you would apply for a pot of money to allow you to experiment and develop and trial your own growing systems. Because we also think, as well as growing crops, there is possibly the opportunity to innovate with the actual growing systems, because there is a lot of interest out there in vertical farming and growing hydroponically. Right, so that's some introductions and the overall aim of the project, and is to develop the supply chain. Right, let's get into this, to the growing unit, and welcome to the person who's just joined us again. Wedi mewn ymlaen rwan i sôn am yr uned tyfu hun, a chydig o'm mhrofiadau I, ac cofiwch rhannu'ch sylwadau neu gwestiynau fel rhan o'r ffrwd byw yma. So the unit behind me is called a flood and drain, because the plants are grown in trays, such as the one behind me here. I will take the camera around in a few minutes, so you can have a closer look. So in regular time intervals, the rooting system is flooded by water, and the water could include nutrients, and then the water then is drained back. So the medium that the plants would be growing in them could be something like a fibre mat, which is what I've got behind me, or something like clay balls, or could be rockwool cubes or boards. And that would retain the moisture each time after the system would be flooded. With the system I've got behind me, the emphasis is on microgreens. So these are very young plants which are sold typically for restaurants, but there seems to be a market developing for the home purchase as well, for retail. And I think there's about 5 or 6 different crops grown behind me, and I will show them in a moment. And I've got 2 different mattings and a few other experiments going on. Tomorrow, these will be harvested first thing in the morning and taken out to a few restaurants in the area to get some feedback and to a local distributor. Achos fel o'n i'n deud chydig bach ynghynt, pwyslais mawr y prosiect yma di datblygu'r gadwyn. Felly mae Menter Môn efo rhwydwaith da efo'r tai bwyta, a da ni'n awyddus i ddyn nhw'n cael blas o'r cnyda mwyn rhaid adborth, a fydd yr adborth yna wedi mynd ymlaen i'r tyfwyr sydd eisoes y dangos diddordeb, neu falle tyfwyr fydd yn cysylltu efo ni. Ac wedyn fydd modd i ni rhaid adborth wedyn o'r math o beth mae'r tai bwyta yn ei chwilio amdanyn nhw. Reit, dwi am symud yr tablet yma rwan ac mwyn trio rhaid rhyw gip olwg i chi o beth sy'n tyfu. Dydw i ddim yn ddyn camera proffesiynol o bellfor, felly dwi'n ymddiheuro am yr ysgwyd a rhyw angles a'r shot art fydd yn dod i fyny rwan. You will quickly gather I'm no Steven Spielberg, so do bear with me. This is a homemade live stream, so there might be some odd angles. I'm not sure how the lighting will work, but we'll give it a go. Okay. Felly, I'll take you to the bottom layer first of all, and here you will see, I wonder if anybody can recognize that crop there. All the crops in this system now are on day 10, so they've had 10 days of growth, and this crop is doing really well. There seems to be a demand from juice bars and health food shops for this crop, and it is wheatgrass. Glaswell gwynydd di'r rhain, ac mae yna farchnad iddyn ar gyfer creu sydd iachus iawn, a mae'r sydd yma'n cael ei werthu fel shot. So the juice is usually sold in 30ml or 40ml shots because of the high antioxidant levels in the juice and the range of other beneficial nutrients. I am interested to try barley grass sometime in August, maybe into September as well. And the seed wasn't soaked, so the seed was just placed on this matting here. I'll go a bit more into the matting later, but you can see the dense rooting system that this crop has already formed. And you can see the tray is a pattern of channels which allows the water to circulate around the bottom of the tray. So that's wheatgrass, and I'd say this probably now, I should have been, if I was a commercial grower, this should have been aware to the customer by now. I think also I should be sowing this at a far higher density than what I have done in order for it to be more commercially viable. We'll move on to the next layer. And here, I wonder if anybody can identify that crop. This takes a bit more time to grow. Os rhywun yn gallu adnabod y cnwd yma, mae hwn wedi cael ei blannu neu heu reit drwchus, ac dwi'n reit hapus efo y cyfradd a tyfu efo hwn. Ac wrth gwrs, egin peas ydy'r rhain. Pea Shoots, so this is the crop I've got here. And it's nice and dense, looking nice and healthy. And that will be growing out very rapidly over the next 2 or 3 days. So there's the growing system as well underneath. The same type of matting as for the wheatgrass. And this black matting is made out of recycled or reused carpet. So it is a material, a man-made material, a synthetic material. However, the matting is made from from old carpet. So there is sort of a sustainable angle to the matting. There we are, looking good. I'm quite happy with the pea shoot, and I think from the early feedback we've had from local businesses, there is quite a sizable market for pea shoot on our doorstep, and this will be going to some restaurants, some of the best restaurants on Anglesey tomorrow, because they are already using pea shoot and they are coming from all over Europe. Now, I'm in the middle there, so dyma'r trydydd lefel yn yr uned yma, yn yr uned tyfu vertical, a mae welwch chi yna 4 cnwd gwahanol fe hyn. Mae symud draw i'r ochr yma. Na fod i just checio, ynda, mae yna 3 oes, mae yna bobl yn gwylio, lle dwi'n cymryd fod y sain yn gweithio. Take the sound is okay, so I'll continue. So here you will notice there is a different matting. This mat is very interesting actually, and very topical, because it's made with a mixture of wool and recycled carpet, and it is slightly more expensive than the black matting. However, it retains moisture far better, and I think this option would allow you to sell the crop still growing in the matting, because I estimate that the crop could continue to grow for up to 3, maybe 4 days, depending on the crop in the packaging, so it will reach the restaurant still growing. So that would provide the chefs with the ultimate freshness, really. Rwan, da chi'n sylwi, dwi eisiau wedi cychwyn cynaeafu'r crop yma, a this is one of the fastest growing crop. Dwi'n meddwl sa rhywun gallu adnabod y cnwd yna, mae yna fersiwn porffor, a gwyrdd. Mae e'n reit boeth, digon o gic yn y blas. This is quite a spicy, hot, intense flavour. And this, of course, is radish. So I've got the Rambo variety here and the Daikon variety here. So purple and green, looks very attractive on the plate and grows very, very well. I'm not sure what's going on here. You can see some droplets of water on the leaves. You know, the water hasn't been sprayed, but there's some transpiration or condensation going on here, which I'm not too pleased to see, because I would prefer to see the crop dry if it was to be sold. So I've already been harvesting that and having a taste and giving samples away. Now, moving on to the next crop, this one. Right, this one is it's very interesting. Its commerciality, we're not sure. There's a lot of aspects to this crop which I think could be very interesting for the high premium top end restaurants, and it's got some a nice story behind it as well. So I'm not sure. I'm just checking the angle here. Let me see. There we are. That's maybe slightly better. These are leeks. So these are what could be called micro leeks, and they are very, they look identical to leeks. They taste like leeks. It's very intense flavour, and we're just wondering whether there's a story there with the Welsh provenance, Welsh micro leeks, whether that would be of interest to the marketplace. Again, we could sell these either harvested, cut, or already growing in the matting. Felly tybed efo hyn, os yw rhyw syniad, dwi'n mwyn cofio yn union lle gafon ni'r syniad yma. Ond mae cennin wrth gwrs yn gysylltiedig efo Gymru, ac mae da ni'n teimlo wrach fod yna gyfle fyna i fod yn gwerthu cennin micro i'r bwytau sydd ar y lefel uchel. Ac mae'r blas yn werth chweil efo'r rhain hefyd. Hwn, tro gyntaf mi dyfu hwn, a'r crop yma, dim i weld y gwneud yn ardderchog, wella fod o'n math o gnwd sy'n cymryd amser. Not overly impressed with this one yet, but this is the first time I've tried to grow it, so maybe I've done a few errors. Possibly, looking at this now, I've sown this 2 dents. It's a very, very small seed, and this is Amaranth, and Amaranth micro leaves. It's very much in demand again from chefs. It looks very nice and delicate on the plate. Nice, intense flavour, fresh flavour, and adds to seafood dishes or risottos or that type of dishes. So there's 4 types of crops there, and probably I'm breaking a key principle here if you were to grow commercial, which is I really shouldn't be having multiple crops on the same layer within the same system. However, what we have found out is there's no need to add nutrients for these crops. That is our current thinking. And over the last few weeks, we've been consulting with the team at Ibers in Aberystwyth, who have done a detailed literature review on whether do we need to put nutrients in the water circulating in the root. And they've confirmed that these plants, these microplants, have got sufficient. Thank you, Luke. And Luke, fyna newydd ofyn os ydyn ni'n defnyddio metholion yn y dŵr. I do apologise if I've missed any questions because something I've already learned. Oh no, I actually just realised how I can switch the camera around. So maybe I've been missing some questions. But Luke, cwestiwn da, ydyn ni'n rhoi metholion yn y dŵr? A'r ateb ydy na, dydyn ni ddim. A da ni'n gallu gwneud hynny oherwydd fod y maeth mae'r planhigion yma I angen I gyd yn yr hada. So we have done with the team at Ibers Aberystwyth a detailed literature review which concluded that most, if not all, young plants, and we're talking a few days old, have got the sufficient nutrients in the seed itself. And that sort of makes sense, really, if you think about Mother Nature. I'm sure she's been clever enough to make sure the young plants get away without having to take nutrients from wherever surroundings they are living. So I'm a bit dubious about the advice out there saying you need nutrients. And I really like the idea of just using water because it's sustainable, and for growing it's simpler and easier. And also I think the consumer will prefer the idea that no artificial nutrients has been used. Felly dyna'r ateb i'r cwestiwn, Luke. Nad oes ddim maeth. Efallai fod yna rhai pobl yn anghytuno efo fi fanna, ond dyna beth dwi'n gredu ar hyn o bryd. Iawn, na I newid y camera gwmpas. Dyna welliant. Reit. Felly dyna fo'r cennin, a dyna ni'r amaranth. Yndi, mae hynod ddiddorol. Cytuno efo Lyc efo yna. Ond dwi'n licio'r enw ar Facebook, Luke Lyc, da iawn. Reit, a dyma ni'r amaranth. Rwan, o'n I drosodd nesaf i'r layer uwchben hwn. So this is the next layer, and I'm sure now you'll be able to recognise this crop. And you can see the tendrils forming on the crop there. I'm really pleased with this one. It's nice and dense, ready to be sold if it was part of a commercial setup. So these are pea shoots. I think from what I understand, chefs would, I'll put my finger in just so I got an idea of the height. There we are, where are we? There we are. So these shoots now are about 2 to 3 inches tall. And from what I understand, chefs are looking to have these maybe between 3 and 4 inches. That's the ideal. So I should be cutting these now, tonight or first thing tomorrow morning, so that they end up in the kitchens the right size, still growing, because the idea is to cut the mat and put them in the packaging, and I'll show you in a few minutes how we're planning to do that. And I'm sure you're getting a feel already that we are feeling our way forward with this project and getting our hands dirty, although it is a very clean system, but I don't know where we are getting our hands and getting involved in this system, and looking for feedback from chefs and customers. So yeah, that's looking good. Right, the top layer is well above my head height, so I have done a risk assessment for what I'm going to do next. Oh, I did trip over the step ladder there. Right, so I'm just going to go on the step ladder and take you up to the height, to the next level. And again, nothing too interesting there. These are pea shoots again, but what I try to do there is use the same matting as the one beneath it, but at a far lower density, and also I did not soak this crop. And this has been very surprising to me, because up to this crop cycle, I was convinced that soaking saved time. So this crop beneath me, this was soaked for 24 hours, before the seed were put on, spread on the mat, and the seed were put on the mat on the same time, but they were not soaked for 24 hours. And from visuals, I can't see much difference, but I've done a very basic scientific error here because I've also varied the sowing density, so there might be something going on with the density there. So I've introduced at least 2 variables, so really I should be having the control to do it better. However, even then I would have expected this top layer to be noticeably further behind the peas that were soaked. Felly, there is a question really, maybe soaking is not required, and that would be good if that is the case, because again, it will make things simpler. And I think maybe the key for making that to work is the seed would need to be placed on the mat that is soaking wet. And if the mat is soaking wet, then that possibly is a better way to start off the seed and the growing. So maybe there's something there that we need to learn or learn from other experienced growers. Felly, ddigon o beth am ymlaen efo'r uned yma, mae rhywun yn tyfu ac yn dysgu wrth dyfu, a dos y byd gwell i ddysgu nag rhoi cynnig arni. Ac fel ni sôn ar y dechrau, dwi'n gwybod bod yna bobl newydd yn ymuno efo'r ffrwd yma rwan. Mae'r prosiect tech tyfu efo 5 o'r unedau math yma fel yr ysgynna i fa hyn. Dydy bob un ddim yn gorlifo dreinio, mae gynna ni hefyd systema NFT. So not all the units in the project is like this one, the flood and drain. We've also got the NFT systems, the nutrients film technique. And these will be available for local people, and local for this project is Anglesey and Gwynedd to apply for, to have an experience of growing these type of crops. You might have noticed, some of you, that there was a little fly there, and that's something I think I'll have to be very careful, because this is now the 4th crop. It's in the garage, and I do try and ventilate as best as I can. However, it's been very warm over the last few days, and I would expect that I would have to be stricter with the access in terms of controlling flies, etc., or to give this system. There it is, you might have seen, yeah, dacia fo. They really don't like to see that. Maybe I'll have to put some precautions or something to minimize that, or give the system a few days rest, so this is not continuously growing. At the moment, because they're young crops, I've been very lucky with no issues. Jyst ar ei syniad i chi o beth yw'r tymeredd. A mae heno, mae wedi bod yn ddwrnod gwyntog ofnadwy, a mae wedi bod yn ddwrnod reit cynnas. Felly, dyma ni, dyna'r tymheredd fa hyn yma. Just dros 20 Celsius sydd yn gynnas iawn, a dyna di lefel llithdar 77%. So that gives you an idea of the environment that these crops are grown in. And they're 10 days old. So in this system, what I really like about the microgreens is the potential to have crops on a regular basis, which allows you to design your business or your cropping regime. And in examples where people do this for a living, it's quite a good way of planning ahead with cash flow and also in control of your own lifestyle. If you happen want to take a break or break over Christmas or go on holiday, it is possible to manage this forward within a short time period. Yeah, and I think that fly is really trying to harass me now. It's only one, but it seems to be appearing in every shot. Dyna ni, felly dyna ni'r cynydda. Felly mwy am yr uned ei hun, yr system tyfu. Yn y gwylod, mae'r tank. So right at the bottom we've got the water tank, or the water reservoir. And I'll just try and show you there now, right at the end there is a submersible pump. Felly fanna mae'r pwmp yn cael ei gartrefu, a mae'r dŵr yma angen cael ei newid efo bob cylchred newydd. So every new crop, I've been changing the water and cleaning the whole system with a product such as this one here. I'll just put this here, which is a natural product, which is which has been bought by a company called Hydro Garden. So it kills off the possibility. Diolch yn fawr Nia, diolch am y sylwadau, thanks Nia for the comment. Ac mae hwn y weld yn neud y job y dda, a mae'n naturiol ac hefyd yn lladd y fungi, botrytis wrth gwrs yn un o'r fungi mae rhywun rili yn cadw llygad arno fo ac yn lladd bacteria. Felly mae hwnna yn popeth tres a'r pibelli'n cael ei olchi'n drylwyr efo'r cynnyrch yna. Gard a ned di hwnna. Wedyn mae'n bosib cymysgu hwnna efo dŵr a ddefnyddio i olchi. So that is cleaned between every crop cycle. Right, so what we've got here is the pipes, the system. So the closest pipe is the draining pipe, which returns the water back to the reservoir. I do apologise about the lights here. I'm sure it can be difficult for you there back home viewing this. So the closest pipe is where the water drains back into the tank. So this system does not need to be connected to the mains. So it's totally independent. It just gets the water from the tank, and I fill this, of course, with a hose pipe. And the furthest pipe is where the pump pumps the water around the system, and it comes out from the outlet right at the corner there of the tray. So what I'll do now, I'll switch on the pump so you can see the water coming out and draining back into the tank. Right. Dyna ni'r uned tyfu. Cyn mi roed y pwmp ymlaen, yna jyst dangos yr timer sydd ar ran o hyn. Un plwg sydd i'r system, a rhedeg o goleuadau ar pwmp. Wedyn dyna ni'r timer ar gyfer goleuadau, timer hen ffasiwn. And that type of timer I really like. It's reliable, simple to use, and I can see exactly what the timings is. No fuss, simple. And you'll be able to see there that the lighting has been set for 18:6, so 18 hours of light and 6 hours of darkness. That's a typical setup for this kind of crop. Dyna fo'r timer efo yna, 18 awr o ola, 6 awr o dywyllwch. Ond wrth gwrs, efo'r 3 diwrnod cyntaf dim ond tywyllwch. First 3 days of the crop, it's just complete darkness to mimic the underground conditions. And lucky here that the electricity this time of the year is fairly cheap, if not free, because it's connected to solar panels, so that makes it even more sustainable. Felly dyna lle mae'r egni dod, ydy'r o'r hael, ond wrth gwrs fe hynny ddim mor wir yn y gia pryd mae'r dyrodia yn barhau. Felly hoffi'r timer yna, a rheswm dwi'n pwysleisio efo mod i hoffi'r timer yna, achos dwi ddim yn hoffi'r timer nesaf dwi'n mynd i ddangos i chi. So I really like that timer, but I'm afraid a bit more negative about this timer here, which is a digital timer for the pump. And to be honest with you, I don't think I've garnered enough patience to try and figure this one out, or my fingers are too fat to work it. I know I do sound very grumpy here now. I just wish that we would have the same timer as with the lights for the pump. That would be much simpler. And up to now, for this kind of system, because of COVID, obviously people, including myself, are around a bit more. So I've been able to manually put the pump on. And once a day is usually sufficient in day 4, 5 and 6. And then by day 7, you might need to circulate the water about 2 or 3 times a day. Right, so I'm just going to manually press the pump. Mi glywch chi sŵn rwan yn y cefndir wrth i'r pwmp gychwyn gylchredeg dŵr. Felly dyma ni, na i just zoomio fewn, dyma ni. Felly dyma'r haen canol, so I'm in the corner there, so you can see the pump pumping the water out in the corner. Looks nice and clean, happy with that. And the same with the layer above it. And you can control the flow of the water using these knobs for each level. So I can increase the amount of water or decrease. Felly mae'r system bach syml, dibynadwy da. A chi dŵr efo yna. A lle mae rwan fod na rwydwaith o wreiddiau reit o amgylch y tres yn cymryd dipyn amser i'r dŵr weithiau ffordd trwy'r crop i gyd. Felly i'r pen yma, i'r pen arall rwan, mae'r dŵr yn cychwyn gweithio ffordd. The water's it nearly worked all its way around the tray, and I like to leave it to have maybe a quarter of an inch of water, not too much, so that would usually mean the pump will run for 3, 4, maybe 5 minutes tops. And yes, there has been instances where my mind has drifted to other things and the pump's been pumping for half an hour, and there's been no issues because the water drains in the middle there back into the tank. Ac dyna pam mae hwn yn cynnig ei hun i fod yn broses reit automated mewn ffordd, achos mae'n bosib rhoid y pwmp ar golar dimers, ac unwaith mae rhywun wedi sefydlu'r crop, mae'n gwachod ar ôl ei hun. So you can see now the white or the light matting with the wool is taking up the water and will retain the moisture far better than the dark matting in the two layers below. Reit, dwi'n meddwl bod hynna tua digon ar gyfer hynna, a cyn i ni gloi pethau dwi am dangos y deunydd pecynna, achos mae amser wedi mynd yn sobor, di gwir, o sydyn, o'r goliadau. Mae gen i falla neu mwy ar sesiynau yma. Jyst wedi newid yr camera. There we are. So, I wonder if there's any questions, any comments. I hope that's given you a sort of bit of insight to the growing system. We haven't sort of mentioned some other tools a vertical farmer might need, such as the pH meter or the electroconductivity meter, the EC meter. Maybe that's something we can cover again in the future. These are the two mattings, which I think you've seen them in the system, and possibly the most exciting aspect is the packaging and the actual final product. And this is an example of something we've developed as a packaging format. It was full yesterday when I did this, and I've been using it for my own lunch and the family as well. And this is radish, the mix with the purple and green, kept in the refrigerator. And it does well. The packaging is biodegradable and compostable, and we think there's a possibility there. So that's just an example to get people thinking. We've got the costings for this, and that would take about 70 gram of microgreens, which is there or thereabouts in terms of a retail ready product. Mae'n dod mewn unedau bach fel hyn, so they come flat packed and it's very straightforward to form the box. And with that, lastly, I mentioned about the idea of selling some of these microgreens in the matting growing, so it lands in the kitchen growing, and that's the ultimate freshness, because I think people will be interested with the fact it's locally. However, there is a question mark how much more people would be willing to spend. However, if it's local and better, now that is a very strong proposition, and we can achieve the best freshness because we're on the doorstep of some of the customers. And the packaging we're planning to use is these sort of platter trays. So the idea is that the matting will be cut to the same size as the tray, with a lid, and they would arrive in the kitchen growing, ready for the chefs or the chef's team to cut and prepare the microgreens. So that is what we're going to experiment. We might get feedback that chefs don't like them, or they might be pleasantly surprised. We'll see. We're going to give it a try. Unfortunately, it's plastic. However, to try and counter that, we have chosen what we think is the best option, which is PETE1, which is the easiest plastic of all to recycle. However, it needs to be decent in terms of withholding the moisture in the matting. So cardboard wouldn't work in this instance, I'm afraid. But we'll continue to look at packaging options. Iawn, dwi'n meddwl mod i wedi treithi digon o fanna. Mae'r amser di mynd, felly dwi'n mynd i oedi. Fod y ddistaw bach i weld sef gwestiynau. I think I've gone on a bit there, giving an insight to the system. A bit at the end there about the packaging and the whole getting, the whole chain working. So I really appreciate the people who've been listening. It's meant that I don't feel too lonely, just speaking to a device here. So any questions or comments, I'll wait for maybe half a minute and then I'll switch the live stream off. Na fo, ac I bobl sydd just yn ymuno efo ni, da ni newydd orffan y sesiwn, so I've just seen some have just joined. I'm afraid that we have just finished the session. You will be able to look back and you'll got the luxury then of fast forwarding as well if there are aspects I've gone through which are not no interest to you. Iawn, felly dwi'n meddwl, diolch yn fawr iawn, ac o'n i weld beth yw'r ymateb efo hwn, a dwi'n falch bod ni gallu dangos beth sydd yn mynd ymlaen fel rhan o'r prosiect Tech Tyfu, sy'n cael ei redag am Menter Môn ac efo'r amcan o drio datblygu a cefnogi datblygu cadwyni cyflenwi yn yr ardal. Iawn, diolch yn fawr i chi, nos dawch, tara.